Hi, my name is Hilda Silken, and I'm the author of Blue Mountain Mist. I go by Hanna, and today we are doing another insert, and this one has to do with some of the challenges when someone produces something. People who don't know or may have a lot of pride take it and then make an absolute disaster out of humanity. What are the outcomes? So, for example, when I went to the dentist, for whatever reason, I have immaculate teeth, but in this particular case, somehow I needed a root canal. This is not my first, this is my third now, but these are not regular fillings. What they tend to do is sometimes they put spyware in it. Now, did I know that? Obviously, I did. I giggled. I'm way too more experienced, but these are now regular Christians who are all paranoid, who are right to be, because the world is so damn shaky. And what ended up happening is I just let them put in what they had to do and I walked out. What they didn't realize is we're going to talk about the intel portion. This is nothing new for Hanna. This is actually her third root canal. These are part of Cluster 3's history in the authentic version. Now, in years ago, we're talking years ago, the first root canal that was done with this type of equipment, the gentleman was murdered. The woman was murdered. The female dentist was murdered. It is part of C3's history, followed by the second dentist who did this type of thing. My guess, that is probably the Ashkenazis somehow, or the Turks. Turkish intelligence, Interpol, making sure everything is legit with Hanna. And now this is the third one. And why did the number two sort of disappear? Because they made their money and they walked away from the project, because they knew the project is very, very academic in nature. So somewhere out there, someone is listening in, and this is the kind of challenges we are encountering today. So I made a little boo-boo. This should be actually number 2, and this should be number 3. But you see what I'm going through? I'm actually recording this not for the sake of self-injury and self-abuse. I'm recording these things for the Evolve University and what was done to one particular female. And the reason why it's so important, I mean, think about the violation. They're cracking into your tooth and they're putting this type of equipment in your teeth. They don't know the material content. They're so overwhelmed. And, it has been nothing but fraud. We're talking high-level fraud. And for example, I'm going to give you another horrific scenario of what exactly I mean when the monkey steals the very high intel work and doesn't know what to do with the camera. So they have an expensive camera in their hand. They know it, but it's an ape. It just doesn't know. So for example, where I'm watching my music videos, which I love, and I do love orchestra. In this particular case, I'm looking at Sir Mix-a-Lot's hand. Now in 2009, 2010, 2011, Hanna did Animal to Hominid Journal. This journal, The Hague got involved and somehow someone put a lock on it. But to kind of do a secondary competition to Hanna, they asked kids, they gave them a heading, think of traits. Now, these spoiled children that were gathered had no clue what traits were. So they arbitrarily went into poorer areas and started paying doctors to injure to make a hand a trait, or a smaller face a trait. These are artificial traits, and this is what they want, which is part of the dumbification project of the United States and Canada. And this is what we're battling as high-level wolves. Now, remember, wolves also have knockoff wolves, and they are equally lethal because they were able to go into Israel and go into certain areas and start screaming they did Jerusalem, when that is also not correct. So when we look at scenarios like this is one of the challenges Hanna, with a backing of woman womb, has to deal with. And this is not acceptable. This is one of the most tragic things. And she was like this at UFT at one point, lethally injured. So there's an intel chip. There's spoiled children just arbitrarily fucking up humans. There are dentists putting into wiring, and we are recording all of this for the sake of evolve and the sake of bettering things. You have to understand, at one point, Hanna, was born into Islam, was raised Christian, but just to give you the ending, which I shouldn't, but is probably going to come out a big Jew. She knows that because she is linked to history of Israel for many different reasons, and she is a perfect human technically. So, but it's a modern portion of it's a modern version of the Christ repetition story, and it's, when we do the movie, you're gonna see how damn interesting that is. It is, if you're atheist, still follow along, because it is statistical probability of an irregular story. This is the authentic version. In 100 years from now, you will probably see a completely different person. That I'm not too sure. But if you want a visual, this is Karakava. And Karakava is Hanna, believe it or not, but with a brown wig and brown costume, who did all these coded poems. They are not normal poems, because she is not a normal person. So when we think of white Negro child I am, there's only one on the planet that is Turkic, and that would be Hanna. Or male is the land we walk on. You have no clue why I wrote that poem, but this is some of the challenges and part of C3's history. So you are watching live TV right now, technically, of the future, the conversion of old religions into modernization. This is the future. This is what you're watching. And these are the challenges of the $40 billion female, and trying to implement law when tyranny is ruling our earth. And did she hurt the eye? You better believe she did. But she was literally like a prostitute in the works over the course of 20 years. She didn't kill it, but she definitely harmed it. And I'm going to show you what her hands look like. Her hands were injured, and you see those black dots. Sorry, I did some painting. The black dots represent the circles that blocked the hand. Same thing with the eye concept. It's just part of the divination story, which is just really interesting if you're atheist. A cool story. But it's a very real story based off true events. So this is where our world is right now. A lot of difficulty in trying to protect humans. And there is one photo I wanted to really show you, and that is someone in Kensington. But I will show that in another day. So thank you and have a good day.